What is up, everybody? It is me, DevilNeverCry, and this video is going to be somewhat of a discussion on a few topics when it comes to DMC5 SE. I've seen a lot of things flying around in my community, whether it's on the YouTube comments, whether it's when I'm streaming on Twitch, on Twitter, people adding me all the time, or even in the channel's Discord. A lot of people have some questions in regards to DMC5 SE, and I kind of want to take the time today to discuss some of them, give my opinion, and hopefully see what you think. Let me know down in the comments below, and get a conversation going about some of these topics, because I am interested in what some people think. As always, make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with anything and everything DMC, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out when new content drops. One of the first things I kind of want to talk about is Virgil, which, again, fairly obvious. The big question is, how is his campaign going to be handled? Is he going to have his own cutscenes? And I think to answer this, or to come up with some sort of answer, we have to take a look at 3 Special Edition and 4 Special Edition, where, to summarize, Virgil technically got to play through those games from start to finish, regardless of when characters switched, regardless of mission length. It was always the same, start to finish, and Virgil got a starter cutscene and an ending cutscene. So he had the book-ended cutscenes. We'd get an intro specific to Virgil and an ending specific to Virgil. Now, looking at the reveal trailer for 5 Special Edition, this also looks to be the case. We see Virgil fighting in missions that are exclusive to Nero, exclusive to Dante, and exclusive to V, implying that he'll gain access to the entirety of the campaign. I suppose in this game it will be similar to 4, where he's treated essentially as his own campaign, or similar to 3 even. Virgil's always been treated as his own mode, if that makes sense, with things like health bars and such not really carrying over. Now, the only reason someone might doubt this, and I do mean the only reason, is because Capcom have pulled this kind of bait and switch with DMC5 before. If you look at one of the pre-release trailers for DMC5, there's actually footage of Dante fighting on the bridge in Mission 1, which in the final game is a mission exclusive to Nero. Yeah, a lot of people were intrigued as to what that was. Maybe it was some sort of divergence mode that never came to be, but I don't think they're going to pull that here with Virgil, just looking at the past games. On the topic of Virgil's campaign, though, I am quite interested as to how things are going to be handled. We know that the opening takes place with Virgil coming to Fortuna, stealing Nero's arm, getting the Yamato and such, but where is it going to start Virgil off? Is he going to be, during the events of DMC4 without the Yamato as a husk, a shell of his former self? Or is it going to pick up even before that, when we see Dante destroy him as Nello Angelo way back in DMC1? I'm hopeful that they'll show us some more insight into Virgil and what he was up to during the events of the DMC series, but who knows? And then on the flip side, considering that we know that the ending cutscene is pretty much just going to be the ending cutscene to DMC5, where Virgil and Dante are fighting back to back. Is it going to go past the ending? Is it going to show us the aftermath of that fight? Is it going to have a little stinger, a tease for the next DMC? I was going to say DMC6. Who knows what it could be at this point? I am hopeful. I am interested how things are going to be handled. But again, only time will tell, and we're just going to have to wait for the final release at this point. Another topic I briefly want to touch upon is Virgil and his weapons, which I touched upon in the previous video for TGS. For those of you who didn't see that video or need a quick recap, a lot of people assumed that Virgil would only have one weapon, myself included, considering that's all we were shown. However, thanks to a tweet by one of the producers where they mentioned weapons plural, again implying that Virgil would have more access to one weapon, people's hopes, myself included, began to rise. Now, I'm hoping that Virgil gets access to his standard kit, which is the Yamato, the Force Edge, and the Beowulf. Regardless of whether it messes with continuity or the canon, Virgil had these weapons in 4 SE, which, again, his campaign there took place before DMC3, before he even had access to these weapons, so I don't think that's going to be an issue, but I'm hoping that they make a return in 5. Now, again, I'm in 2 minds about this. One part of me really hopes so. The other part knows what Capcom is capable of in the run-up to DMC5. They stated there will be hidden weapons to find, and I stress weapons as plural because we come to the final game, and the only hidden weapon essentially is the original Kalina Ann. Now, depending on who you ask, it might be considered another hidden weapon in the fact that you can dual wield that hidden cleaner and that you pick up and the other one that you're given at the end of the game, and they're considered in-game as 2 separate weapons. But, you know, the wording there is very interesting. Very interesting. It could be a monkey paw situation with Virgil where they're just like, oh yeah, we meant weapons as in he's got access to the Yamato and his summoned swords. Or it could be, yo, here's a big fucking blowout of all the goddamn weapons he has. Have fun. I'm hopeful, but a part of me, especially with that and the whole Dante thing where he was in Mission 1 but he wasn't in the final game, has me a little bit skeptical, but still hopeful at the same time. Another question I see floating around quite a lot is Vante. Is Vante a thing in this game? Is he going to be a thing in this game? Is he going to be a boss fight? And for those of you who haven't played 3 Special Edition, you're probably listening and thinking, what the hell is, what is he talking about? Vante obviously being a portmanteau of the names Dante and Virgil. To cut a long story short, you were obviously able to play as Virgil in 3 Special Edition. Virgil is a boss in DMC 3. So of course when you fight against boss Virgil as Virgil, they have to differentiate between the two, otherwise the players are gonna get confused. And thus enters Vante. Essentially they added a red palette swap to the boss Virgil, again to make a distinction between your character and the boss, and of course I guess maybe to mimic Dante in a sense, because you know they've got the red attire. Now this wasn't in DMC4 SE because there was no Virgil boss in DMC4, but as a throwback to Vante, they actually added the palette swap as a costume for Virgil, which I think is a pretty cool touch, and that leads us on to 5 Special Edition. Is it going to contain Vante? I think from a budget perspective or from a financial perspective, I guess it makes sense because it's super cheap, I suppose, to just throw you know, a red skin onto Virgil and just call it a day. But a lot of people, myself included, would love it if we were able to play against Nero and against Dante as separate bosses when you play Mission 19 and Mission 20 as Virgil. Again, I'm hopeful, but I guess we won't know until we get our hands on the game or until we see more of the game pre-release. Which leads me on to the next topic of when are we going to see more of 5 Special Edition? You know, at TGS they teased a little bit of Virgil, somewhat implying that they would show us more of him or have a big Virgil blowout at a later date. But you know, the game and next-gen consoles in fact are just over 5 weeks away. I know for DMC5 and DMC4 SE they did throw up some launch trailers roughly around the time of launch, but it would suck if we had to wait literally up until a couple of days before 5 SE released to see more features when it comes to Virgil and just 5 Special Edition in general, whether they've got anything else in store to surprise us. But that pretty much brings us to the end of the video. I guess there's not going to be news until there's going to be news. You know, we won't know until we know, essentially. But let me know down in the comments below what you thought about today's video, some of the things we discussed. You know, do you agree with some of the statements I made? Do you have a differing opinion? Let me know. And with all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I would like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.